Welcome back to Charlie Brown Politics. I am Charles Brown, your host. Let's talk about RFK Jr., the man who is challenging Jim Crow Joe in the Democratic primary. Now, he just recently went on Fox News and gave an interview. A lot of interesting questions were brought up. One in particular that I have been wondering for a long time, what is the answer to? Now, the answer to this question might surprise you, or will it? So let's just jump right into this interview and react, shall we?
All right, just because Republicans are busy with debates, and in fact, no sooner was last night's done than they were talking about next month's debate on Fox Business. Fact of the matter is, Democrats are not nearly so busy arranging such events. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joins us right now. He is a presidential candidate challenging the President of the United States. Robert, it's always good to have you. It doesn't look, and especially when we were hearing from Cedric Richmond, the Biden-Harris campaign chief, that a debate is in the offing for you or the Democratic Party. What do you think?
Well, we're going to keep asking for a debate. I don't know whether we're going to get one.
You will not, Bobby.
I think it's, there's so many people. We're living in an era now, Neil, where there's so many people who have lost faith in democracy. They think the system is rigged, that the economic system is rigged, that the political system is rigged. And I think it's really important that we have elections in both political parties that look like real democracy, where there's retail politics, where the politicians have to actually go out and meet the American public, where they have to debate opponents, where we are distinguishing ourselves from the old Soviet Union, where the party would choose, the party pangerums and commissars would choose the candidates, and there was just kind of this kabuki theater of democracy rather than real retail politics. And, particularly I think it's important today because ever since the Citizens United case, politics in this country has been driven by money. So the Democratic Party already has $2 billion in its coffers. But to raise that money, it means that President Biden and high DNC officials have to spend hours every day on the phone with political donors. And they really don't have time to see what's happening on the ground in this country, where there's a level of desperation and despair like I've never seen before. And I think it's real.
That's never going to change, Bobby. They're only going to care about what their donors think. They're never going to care about the poor and the working class.
Really important that very quickly our political leaders get in touch with that and understand the urgency. Last night I watched a debate, the Republican debate, and it was really surreal for me because it seemed so tone deaf. It seemed like they were throwing around kind of cliches from the Reagan era. And I'm looking at people who are sitting at their kitchen table wondering about how they're going to pay their medical bills, wondering about how they're going to, how they're going to get the kids out of the house because nobody can afford a house anymore, how they're going to pay for food, how they're going to pay for fuel. And none of those issues was discussed. Nobody was offering policies of, here's what I'm going to do to help the declining middle class in this country.
But do you feel, Rob?
All right, and so that's a great point. Those values and the fact that poor and working class people did not get brought up in the Republican debate is legitimate, yes, but it's also legitimate that these points and values and thoughts do not get brought up in the DNC. Sometimes they will use the vernacular that they have the poor and working classes people their backs, but every time we turn around, we get stabbed. Look at their actions. It tells you exactly how the DNC feels as well. So it's fair to critique the Republicans on this, but we have to hold the Democrats accountable as well.
Robert, that part of it is that you're kind of a problem in that environment, not you individually, but that you're kind of like a man without a political island here, that you have many in your own party, many in your own family who are aghast at you running for president and challenging an incumbent Democratic president. And you seem to be greeted favorably with many on the right. You've appeared on a Joe Rogan podcast. You have said you like a lot of what you've heard out of Vivek Ramaswamy. Ron DeSantis has in the past suggested you as an ideal FDA head. That there does seem to be more interest and respect for you on the Republican side than the Democratic side. What do you think?
I think if you look at the issues that I stand for and you compare them to, for example, the issues that my father, Robert Kennedy, my uncle, John F. Kennedy, stood for, you could go down the line and check every single one of them off. You know, I'm a traditional Kennedy Democrat, a traditional liberal.
All right, let's pause it there for a second. This idea of a Kennedy Democrat, I want to throw the question out. Does this even exist? Has it ever existed? Obviously, his uncle and his father held these democratic values that he says that are a Kennedy Democrat. But we all know what happened in history, okay? They freaking killed them for having these values and holding that within the DNC. So this idea of the Kennedy Democrats, can the DNC become this, you know, this idea that he has? I would beg to differ and say that it cannot. So, yeah, let's throw that out there.
Anti-war, skeptical of the military-industrial complex. I want our financial, our economic policies to respond to the working poor, the working class in this country, rather than to the needs of Wall Street. I want press freedom. Freedom of speech in this country, all the things that the environment, a clean environment, and women's right to bodily autonomy, all the issues that are traditional liberal issues are issues that I, believe in, that I'm fighting for. And incidentally, Neil, I'm getting huge response. I mean, last night I was in Richmond. And with a rally that we scheduled 24 hours before, and we were sold out, almost 500 people almost instantly. I'm getting the same response everywhere I go. My polling numbers are now within shooting distance, and
500 people's nice, but Bernie would be having like 10, 20,000 people show up at his events. So, just. Again, throwing that out there.
Key early primary states of President Biden. So I'm doing well with Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and that's what I set out to do, to try to find that.
Well, no, you're quite right, and we lose sight of that, Robert, that it is a state-by-state battle, as Chris Christie was saying in another.
All right, now here comes the big question that I was talking about in the beginning, so pay attention here.
The segment here, that is what matters, because we don't have a national primary. We have a series of states, of course, caucuses, and then the primaries. But having said all of that, there are people like Robert Reich, of course, who was a former Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, or Labor Secretary, I apologize, who is worried about your emergence. He said that your candidacy saddens him, that he, referring to you, said he could have done something meaningful with his life and his name. Earlier on, he showed such promise as a staunch environmentalist. Goes on to say that the candidacy that's emerged has disappointed him. And it gets back to what we were saying, or I was trying to bring up, not so eloquently, Robert, that you're this man lost between two parties. Would you ever consider a run as a third-party candidate?
No, I'm a Democrat. I'm a traditional Democrat, and part of my mission here is to summons the Democratic Party back to its traditional ideals, and I don't.
All right, so that was the question. Damn it, right? Will you consider running third party? And he blatantly said no. His goal is to bring the Democratic Party back to these ideals and values, like this Kennedy Democrat that I was speaking on previously. Now, this one hurts because we all know what's going to happen in the primary. He's going to get screwed over by the DNC. Look at what they did to Bernie. Look at what they did to Jesse Jackson, to Howard Dean. Before the Dean screen, he was pretty fucking progressive. And it hurts because he's a candidate that resonates so well with me and speaks on so many issues that I agree upon. There are a few that I don't agree with him on, like Palestine and Israel. But with that being said, he's speaking out about the never-ending wars, breaking up the banks, cleaning up the environment, things that you really just don't see people fighting for. And so that's why it hurts. In 2016, Bernie had this huge movement that we were all excited for, and he spent the whole time critiquing the DNC, and when they inevitably screwed him over, he told you to go vote for that party that he critiqued this whole time. This party, he took all this momentum, this movement, and funneled it into this party that killed all of these ideals and values and things that we wanted, and it went nowhere, okay? Do we have $15 minimum wage? Do we have marijuana federally legalized? Do we still have never-ending wars? Did the banks get broken up? Let's remember that Biden just put his top political opponent in jail before he put one person off of Epstein's list in jail. So it hurts because we all wanted Bernie to break off, start that third party. We still would have fucking had Trump, but at least we would have had a little bit of political leverage, meaning that we could say to the Democrats, you cannot win another election unless you succumb to our will, and give us some of the things we want. I don't know. Let me know, is this hurting as much for you as it is for me? I'm not going to stop following him in his run on the primary to the president. Like, subscribe, let me know what you thought on this. Yeah, I don't know what to say. This one just hurts. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.